My name is Amelia Rhodes, and I've been a registered nurse in Atlanta for almost 6 years. If you asked anyone who knows me, they'd probably say I'm calm under pressure, patient with even the most difficult cases, and a little too stubborn for my own good. They'd also say I'm rational, someone who believes in medical explanations, not superstitions. At least I used to. The story I'm about to tell you isn't something I share lightly. Most nurses bury their strange experiences behind a wall of professionalism, but there are some things, some places that refuse to stay buried. At Grayson Memorial Hospital, that place is room 313. No one talks about it openly, not doctors, not nurses, not even the cleaning staff. You only see it in the way people avoid walking near it, how their conversations drop into silence when its door comes into view, how new nurses get a rushed orientation that conveniently skips one section of the West Wing. I didn't pay attention to any of that when I first started. It was just another hospital room with a peeling number plate and a dim light over the door. I never had a reason to go inside until last month. That day started like any other until the head nurse placed a file into my hands with a quiet sigh. "Amelia, you've been assigned a new patient," she said. I nodded, flipping the folder open. Then I saw the room number 313. I looked up. "Is that correct?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she gave me a small, apologetic look, the kind someone gives when handing you bad news they can't change. "He needs monitoring. You're the only one available." But that wasn't true. There were 6 nurses on shift. I saw them pretend they hadn't heard. The hallway felt colder as I walked toward the West Wing. My shoes echoed against the linoleum. The lights flickered once, just briefly, but enough to make me pause. This part of the hospital always looked different, more worn out, more forgotten, like a place that existed only because the building needed 4 walls and the architects didn't know what else to do with the space. When I reached room 313, I stopped. The door was slightly open, not enough to see inside, just enough to feel like someone had been watching. I raised a hand and gently pushed at the hinges, let out a low, strange sound, almost like a breath inside. The room felt colder than the hallway. The air was heavy, still, like something was waiting for me to step in. And when I finally did, I felt the unmistakable sensation of someone standing directly behind me. I spun around. The hallway was empty, no footsteps, no voices, just silence that felt wrong. I told myself I was imagining it. First day nerves for a new assignment, nothing more. But when I turned back to my patient lying in the bed, pale and frail, his eyes opened slowly, he stared at me, then past me toward the corner of the room behind my shoulder. His lips trembled. "She doesn't like when nurses come back," he whispered. My heart thudded painfully, and I swallowed hard. "Who?" His gaze sharpened, terrified. "The one who used to be here." I've worked in hospitals long enough to know that every building has its secrets, but St. Alban Memorial, it felt like it was built on them. During orientation, new nurses usually get the cheerful tour, the cafeteria, the supply closets, the staff break room that's somehow always out of coffee. But when we reached the 3rd floor, the tone shifted. The tour guide, an older nurse named Lorraine, slowed down and lowered her voice. "This wing is mostly unused now, budget cuts," she said. That was a lie. Anyone could tell. Half the lights were dimmer than the rest of the hospital. The air felt colder, and the further we walked, the more I noticed something odd. Every single door was open, just slightly, like someone wanted to prove the rooms were empty except one. Room 313 closed, locked. A long strip of yellowing tape still clung to the top of the doorframe, as if someone had once tried to seal it. I paused. The temperature near that door felt different, sharper, as if the air itself had edges. "What about that one?" I asked. Lorraine didn't even look at it. "We don't use 313, why not?" "Electrical issues," she replied too quickly, but the lights above the door worked perfectly, the brightest on the floor. Something in her voice, or maybe the way her shoulders tensed, made me push a little. "Has anyone been in there recently?" "Amelia," she said, finally turning toward me. "Some rooms just stay closed, leave it at that." The group moved on, but I glanced back once more. The hallway was empty, but for a single second, I could have sworn someone was standing behind the frosted glass window on the door, a silhouette still watching. I blinked, and it was gone. Later that evening, while grabbing a water from the break room fridge, I heard 2 night shift nurses whispering in the hallway. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. Their voices were just too tense to ignore. "She has shifts on the 3rd floor now," one whispered. "She's new, she doesn't know about the room. We should tell her." "No, if we tell her, she'll want to see it." My hand tightened around the water bottle. Were they talking about me? I stepped out of the break room. The nurses fell silent instantly. "Everything okay?" I asked. They shook their heads and hurried away without another word. My first official shift on the 3rd floor came the following night. The moment I stepped off the elevator, I noticed something unnerving. Every open door I'd seen before was now shut, not locked, just quietly, gently closed, all except room 313. It remained exactly as I'd seen it, tightly shut, seal residue still clinging to it. I tried focusing on my charting, on checking vitals, on doing anything besides looking down the hall. But each time I passed by 313, I felt it, a faint humming, not mechanical, not electrical, almost like breathing, slow, controlled, patient, the kind of breathing people make when they don't want to be heard. The first incident was at 2:43 a.m. As I walked toward the supply closet, the hallway lights flickered once, twice, then the overhead bulbs burst back to life, brighter than before. I froze because when the lights stabilized, I saw it. The door to room 313 was open, only an inch, just wide enough for someone or something to peek out. A cold draft rolled down the corridor. I should have called security. I should have called anyone, but instead, I took a step closer. "Hello?" I said softly, heart pounding. No answer, just the humming sound again. Faint but unmistakably real. I leaned in just a little, not enough to be reckless, just enough to be sure of what I was hearing. That's when the door slammed shut hard. I jumped back, breath caught in my throat. The entire corridor went silent, even the humming stopped, and yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something inside that room had finally noticed me. Night shifts always feel heavier, but that night it felt like the hospital was holding its breath. I clocked in at 7:01 p.m., rubbing the exhaustion out of my eyes. The hallways were quieter than usual, the kind of quiet that isn't peaceful, just wrong. Even the vents hummed softer, like they didn't want to disturb something sleeping. I grabbed my chart clipboard and turned toward the east wing, right side, room 217. My stomach dipped, even though I tried pretending I hadn't seen it on my assignment sheet earlier. The number glared back at me now. I could have asked for a reassignment. I could have claimed I wasn't comfortable, but that would have meant admitting fear, and I've never liked being afraid of anything. As I walked down the hall, the overhead lights flickered in two long pulses. They sometimes flickered in older buildings, but this wing wasn't old, it was the newest still. For a moment I swore the air felt colder. A nurse named Devin was updating a board. As I passed, he noticed my direction and froze. "Amelia, you're not actually going to do a check-in on that room, are you?" "Someone has to," I said, trying to sound casual, even though my hand tightened around my clipboard. He swallowed. "Then don't stay long, just log that you looked. None of us go past the threshold." I gave him a small smile to seem confident, but it didn't touch the unease curling up inside me. The walk to room 217 felt like walking toward an invisible pressure, not wind, not temperature, just something, a presence. The doors in the hallway were identical, all white, soft gray frames, but 217 always looked dimmer, even though the overhead bulb worked fine. As I approached, I noticed the faintest movement in the narrow glass window of the door, like someone shifting inside, but 217 hadn't had a patient in weeks. I leaned closer, peering through the rectangle pane, dark, empty, silent. I let out a tight breath and reached for the handle. The metal was cold, ice cold, way too cold for a climate-controlled hospital. My pulse jumped, but I pushed the door open anyway. Inside the room felt wrong. Immediately it wasn't pitch black, just slightly dimmer than the hallway, like the lighting had decided not to try too hard. The bed sat perfectly made, untouched. Equipment stood unplugged, silent, but the air felt heavier, thick, like humidity without warmth. I stepped inside slowly. The door clicked shut behind me, and I flinched harder than I should have. "Okay, just a quick scan," I whispered to myself, in and out. My pen light cut through the dimness as I checked the corners, the closet, the floor. Nothing unusual, nothing dangerous, nothing to justify the fear everyone had stitched around this place. I almost laughed until the pen light trembled in my hand, actually trembled, not me shaking. The plastic casing vibrating lightly, like a phone receiving a silent notification. My breath hitched. I turned it off. The vibration stopped. I turned it back on. Nothing, just stillness. I swallowed hard and decided that was enough for the night. I stepped backward toward the door, but then I felt it, a soft tug on the back of my scrub top. Not a grab, not a yank, just a gentle pull, as if someone tiny reached out to get my attention. I spun around. Nobody there, just the still room and the steady hum of the HVAC. My voice came out thin. "Is someone here?" Silence until the bed creaked. A slow, sinking pressure pushed into the mattress, as though someone invisible had just sat down. My chest tightened, panic pressed against my ribs, urging me to run. Then, in the faintest whisper, almost too soft to know if it was real, "Don't leave." My whole body went cold. I backed up until my hand found the door handle, twisted it, and slipped out into the hallway like I was escaping a fire. The door clicked shut behind me. The lights above brightened instantly. The weight in the air lifted. Devin spotted me from across the corridor. "You're pale," he said quietly. "What happened?" I opened my mouth, but the truth got stuck in my throat because for a split second, reflected in the small glass of room 217's door window behind me, it looked like someone was standing there, someone with a shadow darker than the room itself watching me leave. When I finally managed to steady my breathing, I walked toward the nurse's station. My legs still felt shaky, almost rubbery, like they didn't fully trust the floor beneath them. Devin kept glancing at room 217 as if expecting the door to burst open on its own. "What exactly did you see?" he asked quietly. I hesitated. I didn't want to sound ridiculous. I didn't want to sound scared. "I heard something," I finally said, a voice. It sounded like someone was in the room. His face paled. "You heard it?" he whispered. I frowned. "Wait, what do you mean heard it? Has this happened before?" Devin didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked toward the supervisor's office. Glass walls, blinds half drawn, a warm lamp glowing behind them. "Tell Carla," he said. "She'll know what to do." I didn't want to tell Carla, not because I disliked her. She was strict but fair, but I didn't want her thinking I was imagining things on my second week here. Still, the tremor in Devin's voice made it clear that this wasn't some hazing prank, so I knocked on the glass door. "Come in," Carla called. She sat behind her desk, coat draped on her chair, hair tied in a tight bun. She studied me the moment I stepped inside. "You look like you've seen something." "I don't know," I admitted, "but something's wrong with room 217. Her expression didn't change, but her fingers tightened around her pen. "What happened?" she asked. I told her. "Well, most of it." I kept my voice level, calm, even though my heart still felt like it was catching up from the fear in that room. When I finished, she set her pen down slowly. Then she said something I absolutely wasn't prepared for. "You're the first new nurse who's been able to walk into that room since the incident." I froze. "What incident?" Carla exhaled deeply. "Sit down, Amelia." I sat and her voice lowered to nearly a whisper. "It happened about a year before you joined us," she began. "Room 217 was assigned to a patient named Elise, early 30s, injured in a severe car accident." I nodded. "Nothing unusual so far." "She had no family," Carla continued, "just a neighbor who checked on her occasionally. She stayed with us for almost 2 months. Her tone changed here, softer, but heavier. "We all liked her. She was quiet, kind, but sometimes she'd say strange things." My brows furrowed. "What kind of things?" "That she heard someone in the room when she was alone, that they only spoke to her at night, that they kept sitting on her bed and watching her sleep." A chill slid down my spine. "You believed her?" I asked quietly. Carla shook her head. "At first, we didn't. People in long-term care sometimes experience stress-induced hallucinations, but then nurses started refusing to enter the room after dark. They'd report feeling watched, feeling cold, seeing shadows in the corner that shouldn't exist." Her voice grew very still. "And then Elise passed unexpectedly." My stomach tightened. "How?" I asked. "What happened to her?" Carla shook her head gently. "It wasn't violent, but it was unexplained. We found her early morning, no signs of distress, no medical, 'cause we could determine she was just gone." The room felt colder after a moment. I whispered. "And after that?" "No nurse would enter the room again, not without feeling something wrong. Maintenance tried cleaning it, reassigning it, repainting it. Nothing changed, so we stopped using it altogether." I felt as though I could still feel the cold grip on my scrub top from earlier. "But why does the room still feel alive?" I asked quietly. Carla didn't answer at first. Then she said, "Because whatever Elise felt in that room, whatever spoke to her, may not have left when she did." Carla leaned forward. "Amelia, listen to me carefully," she said. "You're new, you're brave, maybe braver than you should be, but don't go into the room again, not alone, not at night." Her tone wasn't commanding, it was pleading, like she was trying to protect me from something she couldn't explain. My voice came out softer than I intended. "But why me? Why did it tug my shirt? Why did it whisper?" Carla's eyes locked onto mine, full of something that unsettled me deeply. "Because it knows you heard it," she said. The hallway lights flickered again outside her office, only twice, just long enough to send a shiver through both of us. She stood up, closed her blinds, and lowered her voice even more. "Tonight, Amelia, do not walk past room 217, promise me." I nodded, but my chest felt tight because deep down, part of me knew something. I would go near that room again, not because I wanted to, but because whatever was inside it hadn't finished with me yet. I tried to follow Carla's warning honestly. I did. For the first hour of my shift, I focused on routine work, checking vitals, logging medications, calming an anxious patient. Restocking supplies. I kept myself busy enough to pretend that room 217 didn't exist, but the hospital had a strange way of pushing you toward the very thing you wanted to avoid. At around 2:10 a.m., the call lights panel above the nurse's station flickered. One of the buttons blinked for a second, then another, then all at once every single one lit up in a row like a Christmas display, except none of the patients were actually calling for help. Devin froze. Is that malfunctioning? Before I could answer, the lights all shut off again, every one of them except one. 217. My stomach dropped. That room isn't supposed to be active, Devin whispered, but the button stayed on, steady, quiet, pulsing like a heartbeat. I swallowed hard. Someone must have reset the panel wrong. I'll go check the wiring. Devin grabbed my wrist. Amelia, don't. I gently pulled my hand away. It's fine, I won't go and I'll just look. But that wasn't the truth. Something inside me already knew I'd get closer. Then I should underscore 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 underscore. The hallway that felt too quiet as I stepped into the east wing hallway. The hospital seemed to change around me. The AC hum felt slower, the overhead lights felt dimmer, even my own footsteps sounded like they didn't belong to me. I told myself I wasn't scared, but the closer I got to 217, the louder something inside me whispered. Turn around. I didn't. When I reached the door, the call light panel above it glowed faintly, even though there was no patient inside, just an empty room, untouched for months. The air felt colder here, like it wasn't moving at all. My hand hovered over the doorknob. I wasn't going to open it, not again, not after what happened last time, but something brushed the back of my arm like fingertips. I whipped around. No one. I checked behind me. Down both ends of the hall, still no one, and then I heard it, soft, muffled, a woman's voice right on the other side of the door, not whispering this time, crying. My heart slammed inside my ribs. I pressed my ear closer without realizing it. The crying grew sharper, like someone trying not to panic, trying to breathe through fear, trying not to be seen. Hello? I whispered before I could stop myself. Are you hurt? The crying stopped instantly. A beat of silence, 2 beats, then, Amelia. My whole body went cold. It said my name. It knew my name. I stepped backward without looking, hitting the wall behind me. My hands trembled, my breath stalled, my heart felt like it didn't know whether to speed up or shut down this time. The voice at the door didn't whisper, it spoke clearly, calm, too calm. Come in, I've been waiting. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything except stand there, but my legs wouldn't move. A warm breath impossibly close brushed the side of my neck, even though the hallway was empty. And then, just as suddenly as it started, the call light above the door clicked off. A long, slow fade into darkness. The hallway returned to normal light, steady air, still as if nothing had happened, but something had, and it wasn't finished. I didn't tell anyone what happened outside room 217, not Devin, not Carla, not the night supervisor, who always seemed 2 minutes away from a breakdown, because how was I supposed to explain it? Hey. The empty room whispered my name and asked me to come inside. Yeah, that would go over great. So instead, I pretended everything was normal, but it wasn't. Something had shifted after my shift ended. I went home and collapsed into bed thinking I'd sleep off the fear, except I didn't get normal sleep. I drifted into something foggy, half dream, half memory. I saw the hospital hallway stretching out endlessly, like it had no doors, no equipment, no nurses, just a single room at the end. Room 217. It glowed from within, like someone had lit a lamp inside. I heard breathing, my own, shaky and uneven, but I couldn't stop walking toward it. I didn't want to. It felt like the room was pulling me in, not physically, but emotionally, like a gravity that recognized me. The door creaked open on its own. Inside was a hospital bed. Someone was sitting in it, a woman. Her hair fell over her face, like she'd been crying for hours. She raised her head just enough for me to see her eyes, and they were full of something I couldn't read, not anger, not sadness, not fear, something deeper, something like recognition. She lifted her hand and pointed at me. Her voice came out low, shaking. You left me. My breath caught. I don't know you. I whispered. Yes, you do. The woman's voice grew firmer. You were there and you left me. I stepped back. The walls of the room tightened, closing inward. I don't understand, I said, but she only repeated it, louder each time. You left me. You left me. The room went dark and I jolted awake, heart racing, sweat cold, room spinning. It felt too real, not like a nightmare, more like a memory someone had pushed into my mind, except it wasn't my memory, right? At work that night, I felt off, dizzy, distracted, like part of my mind was stuck in that dream. I kept seeing the woman in small flashes when I blinked, when I turned my head too fast. When I walked past reflective surfaces, her eyes haunted me, her voice echoed, "You left me." I didn't tell anyone what was happening, not because I didn't want help, but because I didn't trust myself to explain something I barely understood. Carla noticed anyway. "You look pale," she said gently. "Are you sleeping at all?" "Yeah," I lied, "just long shift, I'm fine." She stared at me for an uncomfortable second, as if waiting for me to confess something, but she didn't push. Instead, she said, "Amelia, whatever you do tonight, stay away from room 217, I mean it." I didn't argue. I didn't need to. The idea of going near that door made my chest tighten, but fate doesn't care what we want. Around 3:12 a.m., almost the same minute as yesterday, the hospital lights flickered. A soft chime echoed through the hall, then another, then 5 more. Rapidly, Devin jumped up. "Not again. What is happening with this place?" All the call lights flashed, except this time they didn't shut off. Instead, the panel's display crackled and glitched, numbers shifting, blinking, scrambling, until finally every room number disappeared, leaving just one glowing square on the screen. 217, steady, bright, calling me. My breath froze in my throat. Carla whispered, almost to herself, "It's escalating." I didn't ask what she meant because deep down, I already knew. This wasn't malfunction, it wasn't coincidence, it was deliberate, and it was directed at me. The alarms wouldn't stop no matter what Devin pressed. No matter how many times Carla reset the panel, the bright square labeled 217 stayed lit, perfectly still, perfectly silent, as if waiting. I tried to focus on my breathing in out, but every breath felt too loud, like the room itself was listening. "Amelia," Carla whispered, "don't go near that hallway, I mean it." I nodded, but I already knew something was going to drag me there, maybe not physically, but mentally it was the same pull as my dream, that strange, invisible thread tugging at somewhere deep inside me. And then something new happened, something I had never seen in this hospital. The hallway lights lining the far wing, the one where room 217 sat alone, began turning off one by one. Click, click, click. A row of silence and darkness creeping toward us. Devin muttered, "Nope, nope. I'm not paid enough for this." But the lights didn't stop at the hallway, they reached the nurse's station. Click, everything dimmed to back up. Glow strips. Suddenly the hospital felt older, emptier, like the walls themselves had pulled in closer. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. Then came the sound, not the alarms, not the lights, something else. A soft tap, 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 like someone gently running their fingertips across the hallway wall. Devin froze. "Tell me you hear that?" Carla swallowed. "Stay here, neither of you moves." But she didn't go investigate because she already knew where the sound came from. All three of us turned toward the dark hall that led to room 217. The tapping grew louder, faster, more insistent. Tap, 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 tap. Then it stopped. Complete silence filled the air, and then the door to room 217 clicked open on its own, not wide, just an inch, just enough. A soft whisper drifted down the hall. It didn't sound angry or dangerous, it sounded lonely, and it said my name, "Amelia." My knees nearly gave out. Devin backed up until he hit the medicine cart. "Okay, she's calling you, I'm out." Carla grabbed his arm. "No one goes down that hallway. That room was sealed for a reason." I wanted to ask her why. I wanted to demand she stop hiding things, but all I managed was a whisper, "Who is in that room?" Carla's expression changed, like I'd asked something she hoped she'd never hear. "No one," she said, her voice cracked. "But someone was." Before I could push further, the hallway lights flickered again, this time so violently we all flinched, and then, for the first time since I'd worked at Briarwood Hospital, I heard something coming from 217 that didn't sound like a whisper, it sounded like a soft, shaky breath, human, real, and deeply sad. It felt like hearing someone cry without sound. I took a single step toward the hallway before I even realized I'd moved. "Amelia," Carla warned, but it was too late because something was pulling me, not physically, not forcefully, but emotionally, like answering a call I'd unknowingly ignored for years. The air around me seemed to shift, soften, grow colder. I whispered, "What happened in that room?" Carla didn't answer, but Devin did. "Whatever happened," he said shakily, "it's not over." A chill ran down my spine because I knew he was right. Room 217 wasn't done with me, not even close. That night, I couldn't sleep, not after hearing my name whispered from a room no nurse would enter, not after the door to 217 moved on its own, not after the dimmed hall lights felt like they were watching me. I sat in the break room staring at my lukewarm coffee, replaying the whisper over and over, "Amelia." It wasn't threatening, it wasn't angry, it sounded familiar, like someone who knew me. Around 2:14 a.m., Carla found me still awake. "You're supposed to be off shift," she said softly. Her eyes looked tired in a way that went deeper than fatigue. "I can't leave." I didn't know how else to explain it. There's something in that room that wants me to understand. Carla sat across from me for the first time since I'd started working here. Her hands trembled. There's something you should see, she whispered. She placed a small USB drive on the table. This is from the hospital's old security system before everything in the West Wing was white. I blinked. White? Carla nodded. After the incident in room 217, most of the footage vanished except this. My throat went dry. She slid the USB toward me as if it were a dangerous object. I shouldn't let you watch this, she said. But something tells me it's yours to see. The security office was cramped, cold, and smelled like dust and old circuit boards. Devon sat at the monitors, eating chips and pretending he wasn't scared. You sure about this? He asked, swiveling in his chair. I need answers, I said. Carla plugged in the USB. A single file appeared, dated 3 years before I was hired. Camera 4, hallway 217. The playback showed the long white corridor. The lights were steady, everything normal. A nurse entered the frame, tall, thin, maybe in her late 40s. Her ID badge swayed as she walked toward room 217. Who is that? I whispered. Carla didn't answer. The nurse paused outside 217, checking something on her clipboard. Then, slowly, the door opened an inch, exactly the way I saw it happen earlier. The nurse leaned closer, confused, then hesitant, and then she stepped inside. The door didn't shut behind her, it slammed. The camera glitched, just a quick flicker, a blur. Devon leaned forward. What was that? His voice was barely above a whisper. The screen returned, showing the hallway empty. The door to 217 slowly opened again, very slowly, and the nurse was gone. Not a sound, not a shadow, not a figure leaving. She simply never returned to the hallway. I felt my chest tighten. Did she ever come out? Carla looked at the floor. No. The footage kept playing. Minutes passed. Then, suddenly, the camera, still watching the empty hallway, captured something else, something chilling. A faint outline, barely visible, leaning out from behind the doorframe of 217. Not a person, not a shadow, more like a presence, as if someone who should be there wasn't fully there anymore. The outline turned, facing the camera. My entire body froze, because even though the image was faint, blurred, and distorted by the old camera quality, I recognized the shape of the face. My breath hitched. It looked like me. Devon pushed away from the desk. Nope, I'm done, that's enough. But I couldn't move, couldn't blink, couldn't breathe, because the faint figure on the screen, the one peeking from the door of room 217, tilted its head exactly the way I do when I'm trying to understand something. Carla shut off the monitor. Amelia, she said gently. This is why I didn't want you near that room, I whispered. What happened 3 years ago? Carla hesitated, then finally answered. A nurse disappeared inside room 217, and the only person who ever saw her leave was you. My blood ran cold. Me? I wasn't here 3 years ago. Carla shook her head slowly, sadly. You were here. Amelia, her voice cracked. You were the nurse who disappeared. The room tilted. I grabbed the desk, breath shaking. That's not possible, I'm right here. Carla stared at me, not with fear, with heartbreak. Devon stepped back toward the door. Guys, the lights in the hallway just flickered again. The hospital felt like it was holding its breath, and somehow, deep inside myself, I already knew, whatever I thought my life was, whatever I believed about my past, room 217 had been waiting for me for a very long time, for a long moment. None of us spoke. My pulse thudded so loudly I could hear it echo in my ears. I kept replaying Carla's words. You were the nurse who disappeared. But how could that be true? I had memories, a life, a home in Atlanta, friends, a job application, a first interview at this hospital, didn't I? My thoughts tangled, twisted, then slipped away like fog. I don't understand, I whispered, my voice barely holding itself together. I arrived in Atlanta 2 years ago. I interviewed at this hospital 6 months after that. I remember everything. Carla looked at me with a painful, gentle sadness. Memories can be shaped, especially when a place like that room is involved. I stepped back from her, shaking my head. No, that doesn't make sense, that's impossible. Yet deep inside me, somewhere quiet, hidden, something felt wrong, almost like I'd been carrying a story that wasn't mine, or one that I'd borrowed. Devon suddenly pointed toward the hallway. Guys, we need to go now. The lights outside the security room flickered again, not a random flicker, more like a pulse, a rhythm. 3 beats, pause, 3 beats, pause, almost like a heartbeat. Each pulse brightened the hallway, then dimmed it unnaturally. I swallowed hard. It's coming from the West Wing. No, Carla whispered, grabbing my wrist. It's coming from room 217. I didn't remember walking out of the security office. I only remembered the cold air brushing my cheeks as we stepped into the hallway. The lights continued to pulse. Devon refused to come. I'm not going back down there, I'm not stupid. he said from behind the door, but Carla followed me, her steps hesitant. Mine slow and unsteady. The hospital felt different now, quieter, heavier, as if it knew I'd learned something I wasn't supposed to. When we reached the west wing, the hum of the lights buzzed low. Like a warning, I stopped. Carla whispered, "Are you sure you want to do this?" "No," I said truthfully, "but I think I have to." Carla held my arm tighter. "Amelia, before anything happens, you need to know something." She took a breath, steadying herself. "You weren't just any nurse assigned to room 217 years ago. You were the last nurse who tried to help the patient inside." I frowned. "The patient? What happened to them?" Carla looked down the hallway toward the infamous door. "No one knows their real name. Their chart vanished the same night you disappeared, and I forgot all of this?" I whispered. Carla nodded slowly. "The hospital tried to cover the incident. They tried to erase every file, every note, every name involved, but some things some people don't stay erased." A chill rolled up my spine as we stepped closer. The air grew colder, denser, almost metallic, like the hallway itself was breathing differently. And then I saw something on the floor beside room 217, a scrap of paper. I bent down, hands trembling, and picked it up. It was a piece of an old medical chart, sleeve yellowed, torn at the edges like it had been untouched for years. There was handwriting on it, messy, scratched, almost frantic. Only 3 words were legible: "Don't let her." I swallowed hard. "Let who?" Carla didn't answer, not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't know before either of us could move. The door to room 217 creaked open just a few inches, exactly the same way as before. The lights above us dimmed and stayed low, humming like they were straining under a weight. Carla whispered, "Amelia, please don't go in." But something deep inside me, an instinct that felt older than memory, pulled me forward. I stepped closer. My own reflection stared back at me in the small glass window of the door, but as I leaned in, my reflection didn't move with me. I froze. My mouth opened in a silent, breathless gasp, because the version of me inside the glass, pale, blurred, expression unreadable, tilted her head the way the shadow in the security footage did, a perfect mirror of the figure peeking from the doorway 3 years earlier. "Amelia," Carla whispered behind me, terrified. "Step back, please." But I couldn't move. My reflection lifted its hand and placed it against the glass, slow, soft, almost gentle, and then it mouthed something, 2 silent words, my name. "Come back." The lights flickered violently once, twice, then everything went dark. When the hallway lights died, the darkness wasn't empty. It felt thick, like it had weight, like it pressed against my chest. I reached out blindly, fingers brushing the cold metal of the door to room 217 behind me. Carla whispered my name. "Amelia, don't move, I'm right here." Her voice shook. A faint glow flickered to life inside the room, not from a lamp, not from the emergency lights. It came from deeper in the darkness, soft, pale, almost like moonlight bleeding through water. I pushed the door open without meaning to. It swung wider than it ever had before, and the light inside brightened. Carla grabbed my arm. "Amelia, stop, you don't belong in there." But something else whispered inside my mind, something familiar. "You were here before." The words weren't spoken aloud, they rose inside me like a forgotten dream resurfacing. I stepped inside the interior of room 217 wasn't how it looked from the hallway. It wasn't abandoned or dusty or stripped. It was exactly as it would have been 3 years ago. Machines stood quietly humming. A patient bed was made neatly in the center. Curtains hung where they should have been removed long ago. Carla froze in the doorway. "This isn't possible," she whispered, but I barely heard her, because on the bed, lying perfectly still, was a woman. Her face was turned away, hair splayed over the pillow. Her arm rested weakly across her stomach, as though she'd fallen asleep. In the middle of a sigh, I took a step closer. My breath caught. Carla's hand slipped from mine. The patient in the bed, she looked like me, not exactly. Her face was thinner, her skin pale, her expression soft with exhaustion, but the resemblance was unmistakable. Carla's voice cracked. "Amelia, that's the nurse who disappeared." My knees weakened. The woman, this version of me, wore the same uniform I had worn earlier that night, the same ID badge, the same tired look in the eyes I had seen in the mirror before my shift. My voice trembled. "How can she be me?" Carla shook her head. "Some rooms, some events, they don't let people go." The air filled with a low hum, not the sound of machines, a deeper sound, older, like the room itself had a heartbeat. And then the woman on the bed exhaled, not a gasp, not a scream, just a soft, tired breath, like she had been waiting for me all this time. Her eyes opened. She didn't look at Carla, she looked straight at me, and in a voice that matched mine perfectly, she whispered, "I told you you'd come back." The memory I never had. Images flooded my mind, not memories, more like reflections of something that had happened to someone who wore my face. I saw myself walking into room 217 years ago. I saw the patient inside, scared, confused, calling for help. I saw myself trying to comfort them, staying long after my shift ended, and then the room changing, lights flickering, machines failing, something shifting in the air, pulling, reaching, twisting, but the images stopped before I saw what happened next inside the room. The other me slowly sat up in bed. Carla stepped back toward the hallway. Amelia, we have to go now. But the room's door began to close, not a slam, just a slow, quiet push, sealing Carla out. She hit the glass. Amelia. Her hand pressed against it. Desperate, helpless, I reached for the door, but it wouldn't budge. The other me climbed off the bed, her bare feet touching the tile floor. Without a sound, you left, she said softly. Her eyes were tired, lonely, hurt in a way that wasn't physical. I didn't leave, I whispered. I don't remember any of this. That's the problem, she said gently. Rooms like this don't erase you, they divide you. I shook my head. I'm not supposed to be here. She stepped closer, close enough for me to see the faint shimmer of light beneath her skin. You're the part of me that got away, she whispered, and I'm the part that stayed. Her face softened, sad but calm. It's time for us to be one again. My chest tightened. Does that mean I disappear? She touched my cheek with a gentle hand. No, it means you remember. Her light spread across her palm, warm, soft, almost peaceful. Outside the door, Carla pounded harder. Amelia, don't let it take you. I turned toward her voice, but the room grew brighter. The floor, the walls, the ceiling, everything glowed like sunlight underwater. The other me whispered, this isn't about being taken, it's about going home. The light wrapped around me, comforting yet terrifying, pulling at the parts of me that didn't belong outside this room. The door's window faded until Carla's face disappeared behind white light. Her voice blurred to nothing. The room dimmed again. The bed, the machines, the curtains, all vanished slowly, like fog evaporating, and when the glow finally faded, the room was empty, silent, still. The hospital floor outside stood quiet. Only one nurse remained standing in the hallway. Carla, she pressed her trembling hand against the door. Goodbye, Amelia, she whispered. And inside room 217, I whispered with the last part of me that remained, I'm still here. Carla never told the hospital what truly happened that night. She couldn't. No one would believe her. Room 217 was sealed permanently. The next morning, no maintenance order, no report, just a quiet lock and a dark sign that read, unavailable, do not enter. Some rooms whisper warnings without speaking. Carla transferred to a different wing soon after. She walked differently, more cautious, more aware, listening for echoes no one else heard. Sometimes she paused outside the West Hall, staring at the closed door, her hand brushing the keys she never used again. She would swear, even years later, that she heard footsteps on the other side, but she never opened it again. No one did. And me, I remain where the hospital kept the part of me that never left, not trapped, not gone, just present, a memory the building refuses to forget. Sometimes the lights flicker at 3 a.m. Sometimes a faint shadow appears under the door of room 217. Sometimes another nurse pauses in the hallway, sensing something, watching from within. I don't try to frighten them, I only wait. I wait for someone who hears the room the way I once did, someone who feels the pull of something unfinished, someone who recognizes a presence and whispers, Amelia. Maybe one day, someone will open the door again, and when they do, I'll finally have the chance to ask the question I never got to finish. Did you come back for me? For now, room 217 stays quiet, but it remembers, and so do I.